Hello everybody, my name is Mars. You can call me MG if you would like, and today I have a tag video for you. This is the A to Z Hot or Not book tag, where there are 26 prompts, one for each letter of the alphabet, and it's kind of just gonna give you a word and you gotta say whether or not you like that thing in books, maybe say a sentence about it. It's kind of meant to be a rapid fire thing. I saw this tag several months ago at this point on RK Stumbling Bear's channel, and I thought it looked like so much fun, so of course I'm gonna do it for myself. I will link her video down below as well as the original video for you to check out, but without further ado, why don't we get into the prompts? The prompt for the letter A is audiobooks, and I want to be someone who listens to audiobooks more often, but I kind of have some processing issues when I'm just listening, so I will listen to audiobooks while I read physically sometimes, but I'm going to ease into being more of someone who listens to audiobooks on their own with some nonfiction, because I feel like that would be a lot easier to follow than any like big heavy fantasy books that I like to read. The letter B is for a Bildungsroman, which is a story having to do with someone's formative years, like a coming-of-age story, and who doesn't love that kind of thing? At least I do. C is for children's books, and while I do love the occasional middle grade, I'm not really one for anything younger than that. D is for digital, and I do read a fair bit of digital books. Like I said, I listen to audiobooks occasionally while I'm reading along physically, but ebooks are something I love. My manga reads are actually about 95% digitally read, and my regular fiction books, I'd say it's about 50-50 between digital and physical. The prompt for the letter E is experimental, and I like some experimental books, and I've disliked some others. I actually am going to start reading House of Leaves later on today when I'm filming this, and that is very much an experimental book, and I'm so looking forward to it. F is for fantasy, and yes, I adore fantasy. Then for G we have graphic novels, and I read the occasional graphic novel. I much prefer manga, it's just something that appeals to me more. I don't know why there's such a weird divide in my head between the two, but that's just how it is. Then for H we have horror, which is another resounding yes. I feel like after fantasy, horror is my favorite genre. For the letter I, we have inspirational, and I don't like books that like kind of are written to be inspirational. I feel like they feel kind of flat for me, but I definitely am inspired by just regular books all the time. J is for journalism, which kind of just isn't my thing. K is for kitsch, which is something that has a popular or sentimental appeal, and I'm a very sentimental person, especially about books. Most of my favorites shelf is books that I've loved since I was a kid, so it's a yes for me on this one. L is for the library, and I was a huge library user when I was younger. I remember going in on a Monday after school and checking out like 10 to 15 books and reading them so fast and going back the next week to return them and get more. I would definitely love to become more of a library user now as an adult. For the letter M, we have mystery, and I do like mysteries in novels, especially when there's like a fantastical or supernatural twist to them. Then for the letter N, we have nonfiction, and I'm slowly getting more into nonfiction. I don't reach for it often, but the occasional craft book or self-help book or memoir is pretty fun to me. O is for omnibus, and I like omnibus editions for manga, not so much fiction, because I feel like they tend to be huge when it's fiction, but manga volumes are quite thin, so binding 2 or 3 of them together into an omnibus is quite nice. Then for P, we have poetry, and I adore poetry. I actually studied it in college. I have a degree in creative writing, and even though I am a novel writer now, I studied poetry for that, and I do dabble in it every now and again. Q is for quests, and I do love a good quest. I mean, I read fantasy more often than not, but my favorite specific types of quests are when they are scavenger hunts or heists. The prompt for the letter R is romance, and I don't really like straight up romance books. They're just not my thing, but I do really enjoy when it's part of the plot of another type of thing, like a fantasy book with some underlying romance subplots. I'll read that and really like it. S is for science fiction, and this is another resounding yes from me. I would put science fiction as my third favorite in terms of genre, so it would go fantasy, horror, science fiction. Props if it has all three of those. I love a good genre blend. For T, we have translation, and I read a ton of translated books, mostly because I'm a huge manga reader, and those are primarily written in Japanese and then translated into English, but I've read a fair few translated novels as well. Shout out to Cornelia Funk and Siri Petterson, two authors whom I adore. Cornelia Funk originally writes in German and Siri Petterson in Norwegian. The letter U is for Übermensch, which is a German word meaning like the superhuman, and I'm kind of indifferent to this concept, I guess. V is for Victorian, and I do enjoy the occasional Victorian novel, but I'm a bigger fan of modern novels that have a Victorian vibe to them. W is for Western, and I don't read a ton of Westerns, but I think they're pretty cool. I'd be open to reading more of them. X is for X-rated, and I have been getting a bit more into some spicy books. I actually did a vlog recently where I tried out some romance books of various genres, and I will link that for you guys down below if you're interested in checking it out. It was an interesting time. I definitely learned some things about my reading taste. Y is for young adult, and I feel like my love for young adult kind of fluctuates. There will be times where all I want to read is young adult and times where I can't stand it. So we're gonna go with a yes question mark for this one. And finally for Z, we have Zeitgeist, which is a word meaning the spirit or mood of the times. And honestly, I don't really read new releases all that often. I'll read a couple of them a year, but I genuinely don't know the current mood for books. Like, I'm not on BookTok or anything. I'm barely in the book community on Instagram. I'm more in the writing community there. But from what I've seen on BookTube, sure, I like some books that have currently recently come out. And we have made it through the entire alphabet. I would love to hear you guys do a version of this if you make videos and want to do your own. Tag me in it so that I can watch your video, or comment down below your opinions on some of these things, and I will do my best to respond because I want to have some conversations about this. But for now, we've come to the end of the video, so if you've enjoyed it, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel for more content, and that way I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye, everyone.